All right, we are live. Welcome to the Tiny But Mighty podcast. I am so excited that you decided to join us today, even if it's not now and it's in the future. This is the podcast where we celebrate small businesses exclusively. Always, I am E, your host, the owner of Main Street E-Market, as well as the host of the Tiny But Mighty podcast. I am thrilled for you to meet my friend Denise Bunger today. She is a real estate agent who started real estate in 2007, but she is a multi-passionate individual who has had her hands in a whole bunch of other projects along the way. And I really want to talk to a real estate agent because it's somebody that we all really engage with over the course of time, whether it's for a rental or for a residential property or a business property or something like that, multifamily, single family, so many different ways that real estate agents show up in the world that we end up interacting with them. But they're not the first thing that you think of when you think of a small business, but they really are. They manage their own time. They are contractors. They have their own small businesses. And so I am super excited for you to be able to meet with Denise. I'm going to bring her up now. Let's welcome her to the stage. Hi, Denise. How are you?
Hey, I'm well.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So tell us a little bit about what led you to the journey of being in real estate, because that's not where it started, right?
No, that's not where it started. It was always something that was in the background, something I was interested in. My mom worked for HUD for over 30 years, I believe, maybe even 40. And so conversations about housing and real estate were always in the background as I was growing up, and, was always an interest. And then in 2006, I believe it was, I was working for an insurance company, and they did a round of layoffs, and I was laid off. And I had the luxury in that moment to say, my kids are almost grown and out of the house, and this is a risk I want to take. This is a limb I want to step out on. I'm very, kind of passionate about it. I had been a homeowner at that point, almost 20 years, and I saw what homeownership, the difference it can make in someone's life. And I wanted to jump in. So I jumped in.
Oh, I love that. And I love the direction that came from in terms of helping someone's life. I was doing research coming into this to try and find some great numbers for us. But honestly, I'm going to let you guide that part of the conversation because I was just swimming in all of the facts and figures, and the way that they represent them is so different. But certainly, when compared to other countries, the United States does not have a very high rate of ownership, actually. Where even our peak compared to most other countries globally is nothing. But there is a very big difference in terms of security and feelings of autonomy in terms of home ownership. Do you find that applies for even like multifamily dwellings and stuff like that?
Well, yeah, I haven't looked at it globally a lot. When I first got my license, I was in Washington State, so we were very near the Canadian border, and I spent time in Canada. And what I saw there were really high home prices. And it was interesting because we actually went to Canada to get prescription meds that sometimes were available over the counter there, or sometimes they were prescription meds there as well, but they were half the price or more. So we were going to Canada. We went as a family, as a recreational activity, but we really went with the intention often of just getting better healthcare prices. So I thought it was interesting to go there for better healthcare prices, but to see higher home prices. So that was kind of the perspective I had on an international level. And I've heard about people buying homes in other places at huge discounts. So definitely seems to be what part of the world you're looking at. But my experience, and I feel blessed to have had that experience, was my grandparents were homeowners, and they were homeowners at a time where 6 children, My dad worked in a steel mill. I mean, my grandfather worked in a steel mill. Um, and, to see that they were able to be homeowners and what that home ownership did for them to be able to really support their family at a higher level. And, home equity, it can be a beautiful thing when it comes to finance and lending and all of that. So that was the history for me, was seeing that it was not an impossible thing to do, no matter what uh, income level you were at, and how it could change your life. And when it's time for the kids to go to college, if you haven't had the ability to save up, you can tap into your home's equity. Um, all of those things, I saw the importance of it.
That's awesome. I love that. And I do need to remember home equity loans for when the boys are heading towards college, if they decide to go in that direction. I keep joking about needing to sell a kidney, but maybe I have other options.
Yeah, I mean, before you start selling body parts, which, you don't have to pay that back in the same way you do a home equity loan. So, you make choices and decisions. um, but yeah, definitely. We had 3 kids um, going to college with, kind of one right after the other. And I know that for us, as a family, for my family at the time, that, our home ownership really made a difference in how we were able to do that comfortably. And comfortably would be a stretch, but, the sacrifice would have been a lot greater and a lot more debt on our kids' shoulders had we not had that option.
For sure. Oh, I love that. So, what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were 7 years old? And how is this different than that?
At 7, where I was at 7 was more, I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. But I also spent a lot of time in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is where I am now. And so for me, I had this glamorous idea about New York. And so I don't know, at 7, I know that at 7, I was thinking, I can't wait to get to New York. I can't wait to spend time in New York. That was kind of, I had a fantasy about this glamorous life and this more cosmopolitan life in New York. As I got older and I saw where my skill set was in terms of, I love to read. And so, I kind of had an advanced vocabulary, and then I'm a diplomat. And what worked for me, or what became a dream, was to be an attorney. So that actually was, if there was anything, it was all about political science, debate, law. I'm a Libra. I believe in a lot of the astrology stuff, and yeah, balance and fairness, and helping resolve issues. And I saw even then that I had some skill for that. So that's where my dreams started. But then I kind of, shifted. Life happens, things happen, and really in the background of all of that was real estate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but the way that you described it, I feel like 7-year-old you would be satisfied, because you're doing something to help have people attain this really important piece to life that helps them to leverage this property, this big purchase, and helps them to advance their families and move towards that to me feels like it's right in alignment. It's a little different than you thought it was, but I feel like you get more time with the public than you do if you're in a courtroom.
Yeah, and I have a love-hate relationship with the public. I'm a bit of an introvert, so there are times where I'm quite content to be on my own and live in my own world. But I really do enjoy interacting with the public, and I really enjoy helping people see. I think that sometimes people make assumptions about what their options are and what they can do. Everyone's not a risk taker. stepping out on a limb. I think sometimes people are given false information about what the possibilities are in their life.
Mhm.
Um, and so it has become a mission um, in my work in real estate to help people see, no, you can buy a house too. There is a way, and there may be a way. And if you're not in that position right now, here's the path. Here are the steps you can take. And I think that, that's eye opening for some people, walking them through the process because it's scary. So being their partner in that process is really cool. Um, there, you do get a lot of satisfaction out of the job. You really do.
That's amazing. So you're also an educator in that way and bringing those tricks and tips to everybody. Um, you
Very
know,
much so.
it's funny because I feel like I had a lot of privilege growing up with a dad who was in finance at a car dealership, and we've talked about that before. But the guy that he learned how to do his job from, who he ended up replacing, started his own mortgage company. And so he did a lot to educate my father in terms of credit score. This is what you need to do. This is how you leverage your good debt, bad debt, debt to credit, all of that kind of stuff. And that was the mission for my dad, to get that information to my sister and I. She wasn't really interested in most of those conversations, so I ended up soaking up most of it. And I'm confident if there was a boy in the mix, it probably wouldn't have gone to me. But still, I lucked out. It was great. But I was walking through the world at a point early on in my life, assuming that people knew that, and then meet my husband, and I'm like, oh gosh, he didn't know all of those things, even though his stepfather had owned a bunch of properties actually, and was kind of in the renter, like, landlord kind of business
Right.
at points. But that wasn't a common conversation going on for him. So I know that that's not a common conversation that's happening at most dinner tables, where people are talking about the ways that you get into home ownership, and all of the different types of loans and how much you have to save and what your credit score needs to be, and planning for it years in advance. So that's really amazing that you're doing that for people, because they need to hear it.
Definitely, definitely. And, it's an ever shifting, ever changing landscape. And I think it's so interesting to me. One of favorite and least favorite at this two things can be true at once
Right.
situations is working. I love working with first time buyers, who are wide eyed and hopeful often, but they often bring their parents along for that ride, because their parents may be homeowners, and they want that partnership and guidance from the people they trust. Completely get it, but have also learned in that process, parents often are operating on, when I bought a house 30, 40 years ago, this is how it worked.
Right.
And so then I have to educate not only my clients, the first time home buyers, but their parents, who tend to be more stubborn and more stuck in a place of, well, I did this before, so I know. But the rules aren't
This
the
should be
same.
fine. Work for us. Yeah.
The rules aren't the same. They are ever changing. What applied, little things, and this is just a side little thing, is back in the day as a realtor, you would put people in your car, and you would drive them around. You were kind of the host, and you literally drove them through the process. That is such a rare occasion these days. The world has changed. Our awareness about the world has changed. So it's rare that I am going to even be comfortable having someone in my car. There's liability issues. um, but that's just one small example. There's so many examples of how the process has changed, how the landscape has changed, that people aren't aware of. And gaining that trust, not only, sometimes it's not just your client, it's your client and their family. um,
Yeah.
so it's challenging and it's rewarding, if you're successful in that.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot to think of. And then it's the commercial car insurance if you have people in the car, and all of the things that end up happening because one lawsuit changes the whole landscape of the situation. On top of the fact that real estate is a very female dominated industry, from what I can tell from the statistics.
I think that's balanced a little bit
Okay.
more. But yeah, I would say there's still they have the majority. We as women have the majority. I think age does change things as well, though, in terms of the landscape. So a realtor who's been 30, 40 years in the game as a woman may operate differently than one, who is 10 years in the game. I think that, thank goodness, the world has shifted, even in my experience and my career across the board, in that, I think the goal used to be as women to be like the men, to show that we could compete on their level and play the same game in the same way. And one thing I've learned and seen is, women breaking that barrier and saying, I don't have to do business like you did business. Success doesn't only look like one thing and is not only achieved one way. So again, another way the landscape has changed is there are women, and I think for sure there are stereotypes about realtors and how we operate and how we function. And my first breakthrough related to real estate was I had been given this message about, well, to be a successful realtor, this is what you're going to have to do and be. And I made a friend, he's a close friend to this day, and he didn't fit any, like scraggly beard, cargo shorts, and Birkenstocks. And he was very successful, very successful. And it made me realize, how about you just be authentic? And in being authentic, it may not work for everyone. Some people might want to see that buttoned up, more formal, quote unquote, professional looking person as their representative. And some people, can see as it's all about the service you give, the knowledge you have, how you treat them. And, knowing that, finding out that I didn't have to fit into some box that was totally uncomfortable for me to fit in really was a huge breakthrough.
I love that. Authenticity is so important when it comes to anything that you do, because people can feel it come through. But what I'm feeling in the moment that you said that is, well, if you want the buttoned up person, there's plenty of them. You go find them. It's fine.
Yeah,
but that's
not, and it's okay. And it's
because I'm going to love you and I'm going to take care of you.
That's right. And I tend to be, in some ways, I can be fairly formal. That's just whom I am. So it's not like I'm going to be showing up in the cargo shorts and Birkenstocks, but knowing that if I chose to, I could still do a great job and give good service and find people who wanted to work with me, and those who don't, those aren't your people. And, they have options. Like you said, there are plenty others out there. They have other choices. So, that huge breakthrough for me.
Awesome. So in terms of realtor, I want to just take a pit stop because we've said that a couple of times. It is realtor, not realtor. There's no
yes. It's funny. I really, as an early reader, and even having the experience of, when you read, particularly at a young age, you may have an idea about how a word is pronounced that is not even close to how that word is actually pronounced. And for me, finding out how the word is actually pronounced and pronouncing it correctly, matters to me personally. I can't speak for all realtors and their opinions on this topic, but the word is realtor. It's as it's spelled. So yeah, there's often an either I or an A that's thrown in between the L and the T. And I think it's the most common pronunciation is the incorrect way. But I would like to be the Pied Piper of helping people pronounce the word correctly. Professional pride.
Yeah, exactly. And we want to make sure that everybody feels pride in the way that they say it too.
That's right. And also a point being made, when we get licensed in whatever state we get it licensed in, and every state has their own licensing. So I was licensed in Washington State. Now I'm licensed in Pennsylvania. Two separate tests, two separate processes. We become real estate agents or real estate professionals. So not every real estate agent or real estate professional is actually a realtor.
Ooh,
Realtor is a trade organization run by the National Association of Realtors, and that's a separate additional certification that we get.
got it. Okay.
So,
So, what's the advantage to it though? Now I have to know.
um, you know, I think on the one hand, some of these things are, I'm trying to think of a nice word.
Is it more
Uh,
networking?
it's no, it's more about one, there's a higher level of ethics that everyone who's licensed, we have a level of ethics and accountability to the state. Um, when you join the Real National Association of Realtors, there's another level of ethics that we are expected to adhere to and honor. And then we individually as professionals have certain benefits to our business that come from joining that trade association. So really, it's a trade association. I think that the ethics piece is nice, but either you've got an ethical person or not. I don't think that joining that organization makes a difference. It's just that you do agree that you will adhere to the highest possible standards of customer service, of duty, um, but also it's a benefit to us as professionals and the services that we offer to our clients. Like there are certain databases that I have access to from being a realtor that I wouldn't if I wasn't a part of that organization. Things like that.
Oh, that definitely makes sense. And it's interesting as a former educator, professional associations was a huge thing. We had, county level, state level, national level associations that we could be involved in, subject matter associations, and all kinds of things. They all want their dues and they all want
Hmm.
to get a little do re mi at the end of the day.
That's
But
right. And it's the same.
yeah, but they do provide support, and there's usually really great newsletters and networking events and things like that that you might not otherwise get. So, and their dues are not usually so high that it makes it to where they have to provide so much value
Right,
on
right.
them. So,
Very similar
yeah.
in that also that it is National Association of Realtors, and then each state has their own association, and then each locality. So there's also the Pennsylvania. In my case, there's the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors, and then also the it's not called Pittsburgh, but basically it's connected to each city, that you're in.
Yeah,
So
that
same
totally
thing.
makes sense. Yeah. So let's talk about this as an entrepreneurship thing. Let's talk about entrepreneurship. So in terms of this, when you first set out, did you realize how much this was going to be like a small business? Was that part of the draw, or was that something that over time you really started to understand?
It was part of the draw. I was aware of that. Um, and it just the information and the knowledge became amplified over time. So I knew that I would be an independent contractor. That's part of our education. I think is learning that, and it also depends on what you do. Because getting your real estate license might be that you're a property manager. It can even mean that you do funeral plot sales. So
Oh,
I can't speak to all that each one of those areas that requires licensing means that you will be an independent contractor. But if you're a standard realtor who gets their license, you then have to associate with a brokerage, and your brokerage is considered your employer, quote unquote, mainly for insurance and state monitoring purposes. But in terms of how you're paid and the agreement that you make with that brokerage, it's as an independent contractor. So we're all running our own businesses. We have, some oversight and accountability to our brokerage, who also has to be licensed with whatever state. Um, but how you operate can be very unique, and I liked that. I like that you have the ability to run your business pretty much how you want to. There's certain parameters, but um, your time and how you spend your time. Like, I don't have to go into an office every day. I certainly can choose to. Um, Things like that. Your marketing, again, there's certain state rules about marketing, but you have a lot of flexibility within what you choose. You're not obligated. Really, the only thing that's an obligation is each municipality or local area has a multiple listing service.
Yeah, no,
Um, yes, and you are required to join that. Most brokerages at least require that you join that, and they have their own set of rules that you have to abide by. But yeah, it's there's yeah,
I'm
so
sorry.
there's
I'm sorry. I laugh because there's just it's a Russian stacking doll of rules and rules and rules and rules and rules, and it feels like such a setup to have a situation where someone's like, well, it's a rule here, but it's not a rule here. Like, do I have
exactly. And
it?
that is exactly, I mean, that is exactly, and you as the independent contractor, you kind of have to manage that. I mean, you join these organizations because you're required to, and you have to follow their rules, but you then have a certain amount of flexibility in terms of how you handle that and how it operates and how you operate. So yes, we are our own small businesses. We really are. But there's a lot of framework within that flexibility. There is a
Right.
box that we have to operate in.
Right. Most people are trying to find freedom in the form. I mean, any small business is going to have regulations that it's got to deal with and stuff. And the insurance piece I want to talk about, because I was looking at the National Association of Realtors, where you told me to kind of get most of my statistics from to take a look. One of the things that they were talking about is there's no benefits for realtors for the vast majority of these places, right? Like, there's no paid time off. I guess sick time is if you can work whenever you're going to work, you just kind of judge things around the way that you need to. So the flexibility is inherent to that, which is great. But at the same time, what about health insurance, dental, all of that kind of stuff? How do you handle that?
You get your own. They can group you together. Most brokerages will offer access. You sign up for it on your own. You pay for it on your own, but you get the some of the benefits of a group policy by being a part of a brokerage, or even National Association of Realtors offers access to certain coverage that you get some benefits of the group. So yeah, we're responsible for our own health insurance.
Neat.
Yeah, and dental and life and any of that.
So for anybody who's questioning how much their realtor is making in terms of a commission, that's an important thing for them to be thinking about, because these are all the overhead costs that go into it.
I agree. I believe that's the idea that people don't get. There are assumptions. I've had a lot of experiences where people go, "Oh, you're a realtor. You're
Mm,
making, all this money." And it's
mm.
like, not necessarily.
By the
we,
time I pay out this one and this one and this one and this one, yeah, for sure. And
That's
it's not
right.
just, it's those professional organizations. It's what now the insurance that is provided by the overhead umbrella company, is that more like a liability insurance kind of a situation?
Yes, yes. So that's professional insurance, professional liability insurance. So I again, I pay for that every month. I pay a monthly fee to my brokerage, and part of that monthly fee that I'm paying to my brokerage provides this liability insurance. So if I make a
Small business.
horrible mistake, um, the brokerage is protected. So it's not just for me, because just like I could be sued, as an individual, my brokerage could be sued for mistakes that I make. So this insurance covers us both.
Wow. So it's effectively similar to malpractice insurance for a physician. Although I'm sure you're probably looking at some smaller maybe not though, because I mean properties
I'll have to remember. I'll have to remember because they break it down in different ways. Like we pay a lump sum usually at the beginning of the year, and then we pay a continuing ongoing monthly fee. So compared to medical malpractice insurance, I'm sure it's a lot less. Um,
but it's similar
but
in design.
it's a chunk, it's add to the list of expenses. Realtors are warned. People who are joining the industry are warned. You better be serious about this. Sometimes people get their real estate license as kind of a casual thing, and that's fine. I mean, you can. I know some realtors, they flip houses and they have their license just to handle their own business, and for their own transactions, and that is absolutely fine. But if you want to make it a career that you are making a livable wage from, it's a commitment. And in the beginning, and when you're early into it, your expenses often outweigh your income. And that can be 6 months or more, depending on when you sell your first house.
Wow. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I guess the biggest benefit to having that brokerage firm is the potential for mentorship, right?
That is one of the biggest. Yeah. The support that you get from a brokerage, picking a brokerage is really a big decision. And in some ways, they offer similar benefits. And that, one of those is mentorship that comes in various forms. It can be, at a manager level. Sometimes they have specific mentorship programs where you have a more experienced agent holding your hand as your resource as you walk through your first few transactions. Sometimes you have that mentorship in just knowing that there's someone you can reach out to when you need it. I've actually worked in real estate offices and played that role, being a support for new agents who have questions. So there's various ways. Collaboration, over time you realize, because people work differently and we're running our own businesses, you learn those people who handle things in a similar way that you would, and have certain standards, the same standards that you do. So maybe it's in that mentorship and support looks more like collaboration. You just have that person you've identified as a trusted resource, when questions come up.
Oh, I love that. I love that because it can be very lonely running your own business. So having that opportunity to be able to connect is great, but you got to pay for it.
In some way, shape, or form. Yes.
Yeah, you're paying for it. And it's funny because I think that is a recurring theme so far on episode 7 of this podcast. There's not a single person who hasn't said that entrepreneurship is pretty lonely, and finding their tribe can be hard, and not knowing how that you don't have somebody to bounce ideas off of. I'm a verbal processor. And so
same.
There are moments that I just record myself to where I look back at it and I pick it apart a couple hours later, because at the very least I can just kind of info dump, and then I can look back and be like, that was just a terrible train of logic. What was I doing? Or yeah, no, that does make sense. Let's kind of keep moving forward. And then I delete it and I kind of move on. But without that, I don't have somebody to like walk down the hallway and be like, knock, knock, knock. I'm going to come sit at your desk. Let's talk for a couple of minutes. Can I run this by you and make sure that my logic isn't just gone?
Right. That's a benefit of spending time in the office. And I know when I have been an employee of these offices, we always encourage agents to, even if, often you have the ability to rent your own individual office. But if not, there's usually shared workspace that, any agent can come work. And we encourage people to do that. And it's not about, oh, just come hang out with us. It's, the support you get in those moments. And also, it's a marketing opportunity. Properties are often sold based on conversations between agents.
It's true. Yeah.
So there's a lot of value, and it is lonely. And a way to alleviate some of the loneliness and isolation is spend time in the office with other agents. There's a lot of value in that.
Yeah. But the nice part is that you don't have to be there, because I've personally found the office environment to be very overstimulating for the most part when it comes to trying to do deep work. And so when you're trying to get that research done and really understand, you're doing all of your comp review and all of that going into these things. Oh no. Oh, sorry. For some reason it kicked you off and came right back. So
I
that's okay.
know. Okay.
But doing all of that research and a lot of the stuff that I do, I'm deep diving into this, and I need no interruptions. I put my phone on do not disturb, and nobody is going to be coming in. But if I was in an office environment, I never got the opportunity to do deep work in an office environment. I always had to take it home with me because the number of knock, 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 knock. Hey, can you? Hey, can you? I'm going to need you to get out of my face. So at the very least, that balance, I think, is really important.
Definitely.
Awesome.
And that's something we all practice is, if you spend a little too much time in the office, you may not get what you intended to get done.
Yeah, you might be very popular, but
so it's nice. It's a balance, and it's nice that we have the flexibility to walk away. We're not required.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say is the hardest part of the entrepreneurship piece of being a realtor?
For me, I think it is the isolation and the working on your own. I as much as I am an introvert and I like time to myself, I like collaborative efforts. I like working with individuals I respect, who, I can share my knowledge, that they can share theirs, getting new ideas. I like that. And so it's a challenge for me sometimes to, because I am much more comfortable in my home office, but just go into the office and get that time with your colleagues. That's a tough one.
You have to overcome the momentum that you have of kind of consistently going to the home office to be able to get out. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I had planned on dropping off a couple of things, picking up a couple of things this morning for donations from the business and stuff. And I knew I needed to do it by tomorrow. But because of prepping for this and starting other things early on, I was like, well, I'm not going to have time. It's going to have to go to tomorrow. And that happens to me a lot, because there's almost like a gravitational force of my office that just holds me here.
Yes. That's a tough part. Working with people, and, this is the biggest purchase of their life often. And I work with investors and commercial, and those are less emotional, less fraught. But that's also a challenging part of my job, is keeping people calm and focused and not emotional in a time where I completely understand why your emotions are heightened, and, helping people just remain calm and focused. I can't think of another way to put it, where I think that it's easy to get, like, people will make assumptions about other people's intentions. So, keeping that communication with, whatever other party is involved and that other agent that's involved, that's also a challenging piece of my job.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. That requires a lot of emotional intelligence, but luckily you're equipped with a lot of it. How have you found that to change since the pandemic?
I think that I think it actually brought a lot of us closer together and more collaborative, because we were all figuring it out. It kind of leveled the playing field of, I'm not sure how I should. Do you want us to wear masks? Is this a mask situation? There had to be conversations about how do we work together in this new world,
I-
and help protect people, and everyone had navigating everyone's different needs for protection. I think it caused people to communicate at an extra level and with a little bit more sensitivity.
Well, that is certainly not a bad thing. More communication is almost always bad. Almost always.
Almost. Definitely.
On the flip side of that, what's your favorite part of this and entrepreneurship in general?
I do enjoy the independence. I like that flexibility in my time and my schedule. I like the flexibility of if for whatever reason you're not connecting with the person, you can choose to, we jokingly call it firing your clients. You can fire your clients. And that's a decision that is made with balance, and it's not usually made on a whim. And I have often worked with people I didn't necessarily enjoy working with, because we need the income. But if things get out of hand, it's nice to be able to walk away, and you're walking away usually from an individual or an entity, but not the business. And that's
Yeah.
nice. That's nice to have the freedom to do that.
Wow. That's really awesome, because that is something I've thought about a lot. How many times in jobs over the course of your life are you forced to consistently have to work with that guy or that gal that just grates everybody's nerves and nobody does anything about it and you're stuck? But in entrepreneurship, you don't have to. It's funny. My husband and I were talking about it the other night. The saying, the customer is always right. That's just the beginning. The customer is always right when it comes to taste. And so their preference is what they are correct about. So if they like a center hall colonial and that is what they want, and you continue to show them all of these ranches, yeah, you're doing them a disservice, because the customer is right when it comes to taste. If they tell you that they simply don't like ranches,
That's
then
right.
you're not helping them. But
Right.
the irrational stuff that goes on in customer service in 2024 and in the past few years of, well, the customer is always right. You better do this thing for me, even though they're asking you to serve pears and it's not even a restaurant. It's definitely not. It's been bastardized, for lack of a better word, in terms of the way that it's been a weaponized phrase against people who are working in customer service, in my opinion.
Definitely. And people can dig their heels in about things. And for sure, I mean, to do my best work, I am listening to my clients' needs in terms of what they're looking for and price range. And, we have a list, sometimes formal, sometimes informally, of needs versus wants. So, there are certain needs that people have for a home or property, and then there's certain wants, and balancing all of that. So that, in that way, the customer, like you said, is always right in terms of what they are looking for. But how they get it, they are not always right. And you do have to be willing to help people. People will often try to guide me through their negotiation. And, I have to be assertive in that I need to know what you want and need, and what your bottom line is, and where you draw the line. I need to know all the parameters of what you want and need. How we get it is my job, and I'm a trained professional. And don't you? Again, sometimes people make assumptions about what they're dealing with on the other side that have nothing to do with reality. And so that can be challenging and interesting. And that is a place where I'm usually comfortable saying, no, you've called it wrong. This is what's really going on. And this is how, we're going to try to navigate this negotiation.
Yeah. It's interesting because you bring up the ethics piece, and we've talked about, just philosophically ethics and things like that. And I think there is this idea that you're going into this huge transaction and people are worried that they're going to get taken advantage of. They're worried that somehow, somewhere along the way, they're going to get snowed because they don't understand what that small print was. And they're about to sign their lives away in a stack of papers this big, and their hand's going to go numb signing all of it. And they know they've really could never sit down and read all of it before they went through. They're just taking everybody at their word through the process pretty much. And so the idea of that lack of trust that starts to show up, where they may have trusted you the whole time, but then all of a sudden it gets down to the wire and the fear comes up.
It's fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So navigating people's fear, and trying to reassure them, I'm on your side. I haven't left your side. And even if your side means we're walking away, I'm on your side.
Oh, that's awesome. And see, that's the important thing that people really need to hear when it comes to their real estate agent, that they're willing to walk away from that transaction. They're not going to put you in a situation where you're going to get hurt just so that they can make money. They want this to be a lasting thing, because I saw a statistic, I think it was 46% off the top of my head of real estate business is repeat business. And so why would a real estate agent want to screw over their client if they're going to lose out on that big chunk of their business, right?
That's it. It's either repeat or referral. So sometimes people buy a house and that's going to be their house forever. But your clients can be your best marketing, in that they may not be buying or selling anything else other than that one home. But they're talking to their family, they're talking to friends, neighbors, about their experience. Or when it comes up at the, Thanksgiving table, I'm ready to, buy or sell. Oh, you should work with this person because I had a great experience with them. Or you should avoid this person because I had a terrible experience with them. Yeah. So it's repeat and referral is a huge chunk of our business.
That's awesome. I mean, that's so similar to every other small business, because word of mouth is still the most powerful advertising marketing strategy that any company ever has. They could spend millions and millions of dollars on advertising, but bad word of mouth is going to ruin it.
Definitely.
So in terms of the whole, hold on. Before we get to, I want to do this one first. If you could change anything about the system of operating inside of a business day to day, I give you a magic wand. There's no limit. Nobody's going to tell you, well, you can't do that. It's literally anything you want and it instantly goes. What is one thing that you would change about it?
Wow, that is a good and tough question.
It's a lot of power.
It is a lot of power. It is a lot of power. I wish that, I enjoy marketing, and I enjoy conversations. I don't necessarily enjoy selling. And we call a lot of what we do, I mean, that's actually what I was searching for the word earlier. Our license is to be a licensed real estate salesperson. So literally my job is called salesperson. And I can accept that, in that if it's something I believe in, I can sell it. But sales per se, not even just the stereotype, but the reality, if I could make that aspect, if I'm just helping you get what you want, that's great. But, selling you something that you may or may not want, don't love that.
Yeah. Okay. So I would like to give you that magic wand, because I would love if that changed as well. I couldn't agree more.
I'd like to think that I'm a facilitator. I'm an educator. But I'm helping you get what you want. I'm not just, trying to push you into something you may or may not want.
Yeah. You're a bridge to where they want to go.
That's how I view it.
All right. So what is one side mission that you hope to accomplish through your work, whether it's through real estate or through other avenues of creative projects?
Well, we have talked previously about another venture that I was pursuing. And for me, that would be my side mission is making a difference in a community, particularly, underserved communities where either there's not more home ownership is a possibility and it's just not happening, or neighborhoods have been abandoned and deserted, and just potential for change and growth, and communities. There are communities near me in the area that I serve where they've literally closed down the high school because of lack of funding, or there's not food deserts, things like that. So seeing, I think gentrification has become a dirty word, and there's all kinds of opinions on that. And I'm not necessarily a proponent of people who don't have that same care for a community coming in and making it whatever, and it losing what it used to be, or its roots or its culture. I don't like that. But I really would like to see some communities revitalized. And I want to participate in that process, so that if there's a pet project or a passion project, it's seeing communities that have, lost their economic advantage for whatever reason be revitalized.
I love this so much because right down the street from me, there's a city that's kind of on the upswing. And I was looking up, gosh, what was I looking up? Anyway, there's a high school for sale. I just saw it yesterday. And I was like, wow, a whole high school, but it looks like an old church too. So that's also interesting because I'm like, all right, well, it was that, then it became that, and now it is this.
Right.
And looking at the way that's all shifted, and I agree with you, the difference between gentrification and whitewashing, or like inflating prices for the sake of it, like where you have these flips that aren't necessarily providing any true value or real fixes to anything that's in the building. They're just dealing with cosmetics, and they didn't open the wall and find out if there's asbestos or knob and tube or any of those kinds of things. And they're going to pass it off as this beautiful thing that's now going to cost $1,000 more a month and increase rents beyond what people can actually handle. That's definitely not what either one of us want, because that is unethical. It's contributing to income and wealth disparities in our country. It holds people back from home ownership because it makes rent so unattainable to be able to save beyond. The average renter in America is looking at more than 35% of their income being spent on rent, which is well more than generations previous. And so we don't want to contribute to that, but being able to revitalize the area from the standpoint of all this infrastructure is here, and gosh, watching it go to waste is just, I don't know, it wasn't my building, but I felt such a deep sadness looking at this building that was clearly filled with life at many points in time, that now is sad and empty and vacant, and the windows being the eyes of the building being completely broken on the roof, but they're all boarded up on the bottom. There just is something so depressing and sad about it, but not
it's
from the
very
standpoint.
sad.
It's like grief. Like I'm mourning a loss, but it wasn't my building. I don't understand how to describe it.
No, definitely. That was my experience when I first came back to the area that I'm in now in Pittsburgh, driving down what was and still is a main thoroughfare, and just seeing businesses boarded up, or just not what it used to be, not the street that I remembered, not the energy that I remembered, and but still, and seeing it every day as a reminder of how it's fallen from the glory that I remembered. and knowing that there's this rich history and it's just lost. And, classic older buildings that could be renovated into things of beauty again. That's painful to see. It's also a waste, the employment and the things that could be happening in a community, and they're just not. They're just gone. Um, is very sad. It is. It's sad. It's depressing. I think it makes people feel hopeless.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I'd love to participate, and starting to in various ways. I'm on the board of a nonprofit where it is their mission to revitalize that community. I took a step in that direction. It wasn't a successful venture, but maybe it was because I learned a lot, um, and I'm connected to the people who still occupy that space and are very much their intention is to participate in the revitalization. So it's on the right track, and I'm always going to be hopeful. Um, but that's definitely how I'd like to connect um, my real estate business to my passion of community growth and development
I
would
mean,
be
that's
in that
that's the
way.
kind of real estate agent that I want. I want somebody who's devoted to that area because they're going to know exactly where to find the things that I'm looking for, especially we're transplants up here. Obviously, being from New Jersey and now living just outside of Albany, it was a lot to look at this area and not know where we were going and stuff like that. And had I known, I don't know that I would have picked where we are, but I'm really
Mm,
glad that we picked where we are.
that's cool.
And so it's interesting because it's very rural, very spread out right here, but it's still part of this larger city. And so you're very close to multiple larger city centers, which is really cool. And Troy, the downtown areas. And I think Pittsburgh's on the water too, right? So it used to be a lot of manufacturing in Pittsburgh, steel, right?
Mainly steel mills, but yeah, it's the convergence of three rivers here. And so, yeah, there's a lot of commerce happening on those rivers to this day.
Yeah. So, what do you think is the biggest thing that led to those vacancies in terms of it? Was it the shift in the manufacturing? Was it 2008? I mean, I was looking at just the foreclosures, mortgage rates, all kinds of things from 2008 and where they didn't even peak until 2010. And then we also had the pandemic. I know there were plenty of brick and mortars that ended up getting shut down through that, even with all of the PPP loans and everything else like that. It just was simply unsustainable. Is it a combination of all of those things? And then if it is, gosh, where do we even start?
Yeah, it's a combination, in my opinion. And I'm not fully an expert because I really spent most of my adult life on the West Coast where similar things are happening. But Pittsburgh is definitely a part of that Rust Belt phenomenon where steel mills and maybe coal, and other manufacturing was on the decline. So it's been happening. The decline has been happening since the 70s. And then, just the pile on over time. And also Pittsburgh is an area where there's it's surrounded by, very robust suburban community. And I think a mindset of, to when you make it, quote unquote, when you have financial success, you get out of the city areas and you move to the suburbs. So I think there was a lot of urban flight um, that happened. And, fortunately, I think, but everyone doesn't agree, tech, when tech started identifying places to have headquarters or, satellite offices, places like this became very affordable and very good options. And with them came, a younger demographic of people who wanted the city living experience. So a lot of the revitalization that has already happened here, and I think has been happening at least 10 years, maybe 15, has come as a result of those companies that chose to locate. So we have Google here, we have Facebook, we have there's a very big medical
Biotech.
insurance community
Oh,
here.
medical insurance. Got it.
Yeah, so there are hospitals. There were all these disparate hospitals, and they combined. And I don't know that that was a good thing in a lot of ways, but it's one of our major employers is a hospital system, and there are two of them, and they both do. My son works for one of them, and so they've provided employment, good, steady, decent paying employment for people. There's also, Make Carnegie Mellon is here,
Right.
University of Pittsburgh. So there are things that keep people in the city, even, with all the suburban stuff. And within the city are these classic, beautiful older homes. And, lots of opportunities for people to, but it's still a very affordable compared to a lot of the places in this country. So the opportunity to live in the city and have a beautiful home and then be close to all the good stuff that goes with city living, it's very much here.
Wow, I love that. And I really hope that that younger demographic who's really talking about the 5-minute communities, the walkable communities, and
Yes.
building third spaces and all of those things that we have lost through our modernization, urban sprawl and urban flight, as you
Mhm.
mentioned it. And listen, when it's New York City, I kind of get it. When you look at New York City, that is just people are stored. There's too
Yeah.
many people in
Yeah.
such a small space. But just going to DC myself and going to Baltimore and different cities along the way. Philadelphia, I feel like, is pretty close to the congestion that you get in New York City.
Yeah.
Boston is similar in terms of, like, gosh, most people are going to want to leave at the end of the day. But I feel like Pittsburgh and Troy and areas like that are more reasonable in terms of the number of people that they have could really set that model up to show, hey,
I
look at
hope
this
so.
walkable farmers markets on your way home, and
Hmm.
childcare that you can just hold the hand of your child and walk there, and then you walk to your office and you don't have to worry about affording a car, because vehicle ownership is just astronomical right now. Not just home prices, but you think of the fact that in 1960 a car in 2021 costs what a home cost in 1960. So it's a very big difference for people, and it's
It
lots of.
is. It is. Yeah, that Pittsburgh is still small enough that I think you can have the best of both worlds. I raised my kids in a smaller town, and they love it here because it reminds them of the smaller town that they grew up in. Um, Yet it has more amenities, that we didn't have in that town. So it's kind of can kind of have the best of both worlds. There's diversity. Um, and it's a work in progress, very much so, um, in all kinds of ways, but the potential is here and things are already moving in that direction. So, like, the groundwork has been laid.
I am definitely looking forward to hearing more as you're progressing through it. And I hope that the right investor or partner, or, I'm looking out into the internet space here.
Yes.
If you would like to back this venture, you think it's also a brilliant idea, you're welcome to do that. I just saw a video the other day about this woman who ended up with $1 billion that was left to her by her late husband. Did you see
Oh
this?
my, no.
And so he was some board of directors, whatever. After he passed, he left it to her, and she found it by surprise, and she gave it to Albert Einstein School of Medicine,
I love
and
that.
in perpetuity is going to pay for the tuition for all of the students there. And that's the kind of thing, like, hey, listen, if there is a millionaire billionaire who wants to invest in something like this, an in perpetuity fund, a walkable community that's going to be sustainable and amazing, now is your moment. All right, so
Love
we are
that.
a little bit over our time, but that's totally cool. I do have a couple more minutes, and I just want to wrap us up
Okay.
with 2 last questions. What is one thing that, if there's nothing else that people walk away with about realtors and about small businesses, that you would want them to know about you and your realtor business and small businesses in general?
I think that, hopefully what we're trying to achieve, a lot of us, the majority of small business owners, is that we're taking our passion and our commitment and we're offering it up in some way, um, to the world. And we've taken that risk. We've stepped outside of the, corporate box, and we're here to serve and live our dreams. And your support is critical. Whoever, whatever community we're serving, community of consumer we're serving, what you're getting, I hope the majority of the time, are people who are committed and are following their passions and their love and trying to give you their best. And please support us in that effort. The more you support us, hopefully the more success we'll have, and the more of us, people who do care and are committed and are passionate about providing the best product and service. Hopefully more of us will be out there, the more we're supported.
Oh, I love that. I feel like your tagline could be, living out my dream is supporting your dream, because you're getting people into their dream homes. I've thought about that a lot, because my business model to support small businesses is specifically based upon the idea that your business doing well is my business. I want you to do well. That's at the end of the day, at the core of it.
I like that.
And
I'm gonna have to play with that.
yeah, and then put it into bios and stuff.
Love it.
But part of it was driving down that street and seeing those shops closed, and it was like, no, I want to contribute to this not being the fate of another store.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what is one simple way that everyone could support your small business, even if they're not going to spend money?
Wow. Come to me with your questions. I think that everyone in the world has some question about real estate. And I am completely comfortable saying, that's a good question. I don't know. Let me find out. Or I know, and you might have to shut me up. You might be like, okay, that was plenty of an answer 5 minutes ago. You can stop. So I like when people are curious, or just have some random, very specific question. And I think that there are a lot of us out there, in the real estate industry, who can answer questions and like to answer those questions, because we want people to be informed.
That is amazing. So even the thing that they would do to help you is something that you can help them. That is such a beautiful answer.
I would hope so. And I learn. The more that people come to us with questions, the more we learn.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, that's so beautiful. And last question, is there anything that I haven't asked you yet that you would like to be able to share with us?
I don't think so. You're very thorough. You're very good. And you think, and I love that you think outside of the box. So I think you've touched on, the professionalism, the passion, the business aspect. So no, I feel like it was a very comprehensive discussion.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me. I really, really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Erica. That was a fun conversation.
I'm so glad. All right. Well, I will
Okay.
talk to you soon.
Sounds
Take
good.
care.
Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of Tiny But Mighty. I am so excited that you had the opportunity to meet Denise, and I will link all of the stuff in all of the places. If you are looking for a real estate agent in Pittsburgh, I would absolutely recommend her, and I hope that you would have the trust in her abilities after listening to her speak so eloquently. It is so clear that she is so knowledgeable, not just passionate, but knowledgeable about her industry and her area. And she just cares deeply about people. And those are the kind of people that I personally want to work with, people who love other people. I have no room for intolerance and hatred clearly inside of any of these things. So definitely make sure that you are checking out her socials. Even if you want to just reach out to her with your real estate question and you're not in Pittsburgh, you probably want to be able to give her a follow as well. So she's going to be relaunching some stuff on social media here coming up soon. And I'm very, very excited for that. Thank you so much for your time and attention. And as always, shop small whenever possible. Do something that will uplift a small business in your community today. Write them a review on Google. That's free. Or Yelp, especially if it's a good review, because we tend to only talk about the negative stuff. We don't usually go out of our way to give that positive review. I'm not asking for anything unethical, only the positive reviews that are real, but make sure that you are taking just a couple of minutes to uplift a small business near you today. Thank you so much. Take care.